No, like if we say a bad word or whatever, I want you to do the Star Wars fighter.
Pew!
Yeah. So I almost call them X-wings. Like X gonna give it to you.
See.
What were you gonna say, John?
What I was gonna say it was not gonna top that at all. That was good. Everyone's camp.
Everyone's camp.
Everyone.
Gentlemen, welcome
Everyone.
to the Talkies.
The Talkies.
All right, welcome to the Talkies repilot, second
The repilot.
kind of pilot. We've done 2 audio episodes of the show already, so we're going to release all these at the same time. So if you're watching this, guess what? There are 2 more episodes that we recorded prior in the year, way earlier in the year, actually.
It was warm outside.
When it was warm outside, and you can see those, and we'll put a link and all that kind of stuff. So don't worry about it. Let's go around. This is the Talkies. It's a show about film in Columbus. I am Jeff Holbrook.
I am Sarah Lynn Holbrook.
I am John Hauser.
John Hauser.
John Hauser. When we were
Hauser.
doing mic checks earlier, I was like doing my best impression of you. It was like, I'm John Hauser.
John
Welcome
Hauser.
to.
Just gonna continue to talk like this.
I love it.
That's right.
That's
That's right.
good.
Keep that energy going. No, just kidding.
So we were going through topics of what today's episode could be about, and I wrote them down. And I had 2 really great ideas last week, but I didn't write them down, and I couldn't remember them. So these aren't those, but this is just a tribute to those ideas.
I had 2 great ideas. These aren't those.
These aren't those. So ideas for the podcast, prejudices or misconceptions you face in casting.
As an actor or filmmaker in general?
I think filmmaker in general, and as an actor, I mean, it's sort of the misconceptions I think people have, or like your branding.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Sure.
In the meantime, of what do you do when you're not working on a set, or you're not producing, or you're not in a film or whatever? What do you do in the meantime to kind of keep the ball rolling and keep your energy up and keep your creativity going so you're fulfilled and you're not waiting on others? So in the meantime, the outfits.
Can you elaborate on that a little, little bit?
So, so when I get really overwhelmed or I care too much, eventually I hit a wall. And sometimes when I hit that wall and I go through it, I call it my F it wall. I say wall, but we're going to have to bleep that out. So you'll probably hear a Star Wars sound effect back then. Is when I hit that wall and I stop caring about what others think. Sometimes it's really freeing and I do some great work. Or sometimes it's to my detriment when I go too far. So like how the efforts can be beneficial and how they can also be detrimental. So both. A lot of mentals, you know. So breaking through stereotypes, this is in acting, this is in character development, whether writing or producing. And then the last idea is when to say no.
They all seem to tie in together a little bit. Like, I like the umbrella of predictability and predictable casting and when to say no.
Yeah.
Before we launch into any of those really, really awesome topics, can we catch up a little bit about what's happening with film in Columbus? Right now, we're closing out the year. It's December 2019, but hopefully you can watch or listen to the show whenever. But no one is chronicling the weird timeline of what's happening to film in Columbus.
Oh, yeah.
And one day I think film will be a pretty big stinking deal here, and we'll all wonder how it happened. So what's going on right now?
That I don't know. I was gonna say no.
Well, you know, because you made a thing, right?
Well,
like,
I was gonna say like
to?
with me, yeah, like other than well, I just made I just came off of a commercial I shot for Midtown Columbus. Shout out to them. And I'm shooting a New Year's wedding. That's new.
Oh,
that's something I've never done that before. Like, it's gonna
fun.
be something different. But yeah, I'm kind of over the whole New Year partying, I guess. So when I took that job, it wasn't like a big like blow for me. It was just like, no, I'm just take this money. But other than that,
I get that.
it's all good.
Jeff and I just went to an event, the Film Commission event.
Oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
See, I wanted to go to that. You know, all right, the thing, before y'all, I hate that, like, those events, they always are, like, because I work full time, so it's just, like, I hate when it's, like, at 3 o'clock or something like that, or, like, at a time where I can't, like, make it.
It was originally at, like, 7 a.m. And I think people were like, that's too
Y'all can push it to like
early.
6 o'clock or something.
Yeah,
like,
for real. But yeah, so this film commission event, it broke down sort of, again, all the film things that are happening with the Film Fund, which is the public-private partnership that allows films to come to Columbus, and they provide gap funding for a film. And they reported that in 2020 we'll have 10 films that are going to come and do productions in Columbus.
Word.
And they said there's like definitely 3 happening at the beginning of the year. 1 in January, 1 in February, and 1 in March. There was supposed to be 1 in December, but it got moved, as things do in film. And then, but they're geared up for 10, give or take 1 or 2, because, negotiations are always long and arduous. And then they talked about other things that were happening in Columbus, but what I took away from it, besides just the talking portion, was the networking and how, like you, John, we just met a bunch of independent filmmakers who were just doing the thing, and they don't talk about it, they just do it. Mm-hmm. Which I find really interesting, because there's a lot of people in Columbus that are doing just that. They're just doing the work and they're not talking about doing the work. And that's something that I know Jeff and I have struggled with, is talking about what we're doing, because we buckle down and we do it. And then we're not like, look at me, look at what we're doing. And we're trying to get better about, because I think it's marketing and managing, to show what you're doing. Because I think if we shine a light on it more than other people will do it, and then we can actually show all the film that we are doing in Columbus.
I think we're hoping to shine a light on what everybody's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we can get people here on the show. There's people that have talked about they would like to pop on just to say all these people who are working so hard. Here, meet Ginger Steele, meet people that are on set all the time. Meet Nolan Jenkins. Meet people that are working, and trying to demystify that a little bit and celebrate what they're doing, and
absolutely.
Message better what we're doing too, because I think we could say more.
Ginger, they got their own thing going on too with the casting.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to her. She helped me on my Midtown commercial. But
I saw that on Facebook. Yeah.
Ginger's great. We've had the pleasure of working with her on every production that's been in Columbus, which has been pretty.
Yeah, she's on
awesome.
Every set.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So far this year, as we're kind of coming to a close, a couple movies have wrapped. Obviously, The Long Night has come and gone, and we worked on that, and that's wrapped, and that's in post now, and should be out soon. We hope.
Say, are you gonna get a trailer for it soon?
I hope so.
It should drop.
We've seen some stuff.
Yes.
I think you showed me something.
Yeah.
I think it was from that.
Yeah. It was from that.
Because the other film that's in that line, it just premiered 2 weeks ago. So I would imagine in January or February they're going to drop the trailer for.
Yeah.
That's just a guess, though. I don't actually know.
Right. So Long Night happened. A film came through called Electric Jesus happened, and we helped with that. We all helped with that. It's the first time we got to all 3 of us work together on a show, which was really cool. Yeah. In fact, I remember when they called, they were looking for BTS, and they're looking for us for a minute. And I was like, "Have you talked to John?" I said, you made that graphic." I was like John, he's like, "Look at this." And it's like, there's this whole website, and they were like, yes, John.
So they were, when I heard that they were going to be shooting here. I kind of do this. I do this thing with certain people where I'll just secretly make something, whether that be a little title card or a promo deal or something like that. And I made that for Electric Jesus, and all it was just their logo and really fixed up with animation and stuff like that, and then the cast and stuff, and then a film by Chris White. I made that. I think it was 20 seconds long or something, and I sent that to I sent it to you, didn't I?
Yeah, and I sent it to them, and they flipped out.
Yeah.
Can we drop that in? Do you mind?
I don't care. Yeah.
All right, so this is the
clip.
So I thought it was really clever because you made this thing and then you sent it, and it was oh, if you're talking about what do you do between gigs, you angle for a gig.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, this is great. And they were like, who's this guy? And then y'all were connected. And
I didn't even really
so good to see
even
you on set.
expect that part. That was just me just being like, hey, welcome to Columbus.
Here you go. Yeah. But isn't that the
not-
way, though? It's like you just do like a little bit to show like your creativity, and then people are like, what?
Yeah.
Yes! So I think that's a good tie into the topic of In the Meantime. You transitioned into that loverly.
do we need
Jeffrey.
like a graphic? In the meantime.
In the meantime.
In the meantime, what do you do between gigs?
Yeah.
So that you don't stay unemployed.
Right? In the meantime.
So that's different for everybody, right? It's different it's different for like when all we were doing was like acting before we came here and started producing. In the meantime was one thing, and now that we're here going to gig, that's another thing for producing, and then you got your thing. So kick it off, Sarah.
Yeah, well, yeah, like you said, when we were just actors, I think In the Meantime was, I would do theater in the meantime, or I would write little shorts, just to kind of keep that creative bug alive, or I would, take up a hobby. But I don't know, the older I get, the more I'm trying to channel in the meantime energy into something that will become my next gig, right? So I'm working towards being self-sufficient, like, or take like an acting class or whatever, just to kind of just always kind of have my gears churning in something creative and film related. And also, now that we've switched to producing, in the meantime, when we're not producing our own work or helping on a production, we're doing classes, we're doing casting services, we're doing all the random, the smaller gigs, you could say, like a 2-day gig that's a quick turnaround, as opposed to like a 2-month-long gig, which takes up a lot more energy. But yeah, I don't know. Right now, in the meantime, I'm just trying to write, and I'm trying to find other like-minded people so that we can help propel ourselves towards just being creative and producing. And I mean, my long-term goal is that I get to work for myself. I write and produce and direct and I don't know, that's like my long-term goal. I was much more articulate earlier.
I'm sorry. then you got hungry.
I did. So just to say, in the meantime, it's finding smaller gigs that's still in your craft, or trying to be your own boss so that you can free yourselves from having to depend on others.
It's scary if you're not sure that next gig is going to come.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, I don't know, maybe no one else gets scared, but sometimes I do.
Oh,
it's
no.
just like, okay.
Absolutely.
Did I do my last thing? Great.
Yeah.
That's
Anytime I'm not doing anything, like, and it happens, like, I wouldn't have a client for like months on end, and that literally drives me crazy.
Same.
Like, if I don't have anything to do, and as somebody that's like in the meantime, like, if I don't have like client work, I would be doing like some other stuff for me, but like preferably I like to do stuff for clients. So if I don't have like a job like in a while, I'm just like going nuts. I can't handle it.
Well, because we were talking about this earlier before we were pre-recording, is that we both like to work in collaborative environments, and I thrive off of being collaborative. And when I'm not in an environment where I'm doing that, whether it's for someone else or for myself, I feel like I just feel stagnant.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what you said about the month to like going several months, like I totally get. Like there was one year when I was an actor and I didn't book anything for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, I'm getting older, and oh, I don't look the same,
Yeah,
and then, oh, have I dried up?
It's like that weird like self-doubt phase you get into.
Yes.
It's just like, whoa, damn it, like, am I not good enough for this? Like,
right.
and I went through a whole like deal of that way of thinking. Just like you go for so long, and then like you see other people doing work too, and then it's just like, hey guys, like, what? I'm here, like, but nothing ever pops up. But I mean it all works out in the end, but
that's like when the in the meantime really counts, right? It's fine for when like eventually there's going to be another gig and you can see it on the horizon, but it's what you do when there is that year-long gap of your next official job. Like, what do you do in that time?
Does social media make that worse?
I think so.
I think it does too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a little sad.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see everybody working and stuff, but like. I don't know if I'm not putting something out, even if it's like I put out Camera Test the other day, just to put it out. I get sad. Like I don't have to be working on a huge project, but if I have not published something somewhere, either.
But it's also validation, right? It's like just acknowledge, universe, that I have created a thing, even if it doesn't, bring me money or whatever. I've made a thing that I like. Here, that's like, I mean, that's like the root of all artists, right? We just want our work to be acknowledged, right? And so, yeah, sometimes social media can make that hard because, it's like there was that meme I saw the other day of it was an apple and there was a huge bite taken out of it, and it's like, and behind it was a mirror, and on the front where it was perfect was social media, and behind we saw the apple was reality. And it's sort of like, we put our best foot forward on social media because we want to show that we're productive and we're successful, and rarely do people post so openly about their failures. You know what I mean? And I would be really, interested to see what a world would look like if we did post our failures. You know what I mean? Like, I tried a thing today and it failed horribly, but here it is. I don't know. I think that's something maybe in 2020, and I encourage our viewers to do, is if you are trying to film something or create something and it's a dud or a failure, to post it, because I think that's part of the process. No one wants to see how the sausage gets made, but also like they kind of do, because that's how you learn to get better.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I like that. I've only done that once, and I think I posted it sometime this year or last year. It was this short that I shot. It was like this horror short that I shot with my friend, and it was very not finished at all. But I put it out there. I mean, it was finished enough. I mean, you could get what was going on, but like I just kind of put it out there just because I got tired of like being the only person to look at it, and so I just put it out there just to put it out there. So I do like that. Like just putting out. If you're just gonna be sitting on it for so long.
Yeah,
and then if
absolutely.
it's good, it's fine.
Because you can always release another edited, finished version. Right. But I think about how, as a teacher, I always thought, the times that I've learned the most is when I have screwed up royally, or I have truly failed and I've had to figure something out. You know what I mean? When something didn't go my way is when I've really learned the most. And I don't know. I think it'd be really interesting if people just started posting their failures, and not like, I'm a failure and everything sucks, but like, I tried to do this shot today and nothing was in focus, but here it is. You know what I mean?
They're experiments.
Yeah,
right? Exactly.
Right.
Because, that's the thing. It's an experiment, right? And when you're trying like a new lens out, or a new way of capturing film, or you want to try a new angle of telling a story, sometimes you get it wrong. But
yeah, I don't do New Year's resolutions or anything, but I do think about like, what do you want to do different as things are coming up. And speaking of experiments and failures and even literal lenses, I spent a couple of weeks working on this whole setup, because a couple of things. First off, in between gigs, if you will, which we kind of are in a way right now, as I've gotten older, I've sort of started to understand that it's really important to try to spend a little bit of time to really understand what you do and try to master it, and that is actually worth your time doing. And that's the hardest thing to convince employers of in some ways. It's the hardest thing sometimes to convince yourself of. It's like, well, I should be hustling for sales. But then you go, sales of what?
Yeah.
Of something that's not as good as it could be?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, yes.
So that's what I'm trying to do right now. In fact, I changed lenses today. I had a different lens on my personal shot that was super good and way, way better than this. It was a 35 instead of this little guy. It was a cine lens. But we were getting closer to the time, and I take too long on these things anyway. And I was like, you know what? This is fine. This is good enough. It's going to be a little shadowy and not as much bokeh as I want back here. But the thing that I'm trying to counter now to balance this, trying to get really good at what you do, is compress the time for projects to get out.
Yeah.
Because the longer it takes something to get out, like I'm sitting on Grounds right now, and I've been editing that for a year, except I haven't been editing it for a year because we've been doing all these other projects. So I get to start a project and then stop it and then come back to it.
Right.
And every day that Grounds is not released is like
wait.
more and more.
Yeah.
And that means that it has to get better and better.
Yeah.
And so like I'm pouring everything I have into it. Like, there is not an original sound that we recorded on set in that movie because our sound guy bailed, and now I've built we've ADR'd all the dialogue, and I've built every sound from recordings.
And also, we were
samples.
fighting against.
It sounds great, but
a refrigerator that could not be unplugged because we didn't have the budget to you know what I mean?
Anyway, but that balance of like, you want to get really great at it, but you also need to release it. How do you deal with that? I feel like there's some perfectionists in the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I just I did a panel not too long ago, and I'm so happy that you said about what you said about learning your craft and stuff like that, because that's what I'm big on. You have to know, like, your I almost like curse, but like anyway, but like you have to know like your craft if you're gonna like be doing this kind of thing or just anything in general. Like, you got to get that knowledge in like first, because it was so funny because every person on the panel before I got on, the question was like, so like how do you how do you keep moving on in this industry and stuff? And then like literally every person was like, oh yeah, you gotta hustle, man. You just gotta hustle to get what you gotta get. You gotta hustle, you gotta hustle a network, hustle a network, hustle a network. And then like I got on and I'm just like, yeah, that's cool and dandy, but like know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Like
because you can like talk the talk, but if you can't back it up, like no, I'm sorry, you know.
Yeah, like it blew my mind what that was literally what everybody was saying, and they were just copying off of like what the last person was saying.
Right.
It was just like,
nothing cures imposter syndrome faster than knowing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
like it's not the glamorous part.
No,
right?
it's not.
The hard part.
Yeah.
It's there's that kind of graph where it's like the first 80% of something most people can get. That's not the hard part. But that last 20%, that last 5% of something where the real mastery happens, like that is so much harder to get to. It involves so much more work, and it involves work that no one sees.
Yes, it's the detail and it's the unfun parts, right? It's not the fun, glamorous, oh, we're doing a movie. Oh, yeah, the action and the energy. It's the sitting down and reading and comparing and watching, how-to videos and trying it out and going in the field and just figuring it out, like the boring stuff, and having everything go wrong and being like, all right, what do I do? How do I get the thing that I want to happen?
It's all the stuff you don't post, and it's all the stuff that in a movie they have to show as a montage,
right?
Because it's repetitive, it's boring, but it's necessary. It's
I have this thing too, even with like some videographers like in this city or just in general, like a lot of them like really focus on the equipment aspect of it. They never, and I think that like editing is key. Like, you can have the best like equipment all you want. You can have the Reds, you can have the Black Magics, and like all of that stuff all you want, and you can know how to use it. You can know all the details and stuff like that. But like, what is all of that
unless you have someone who can stitch that story together to really, exactly, absolutely.
So it's just all about like, learn it all. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
And I would also say on top of that too is, with learning your craft, is you have to constantly keep learning. Yeah. You don't just get to like learn everything, get your doctorate, and that's it. Yep. No, this is a craft that is constantly evolving and changing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like, you got to be ready to evolve and change, even if it challenges in the way that you've done things before and your process. You have to constantly be willing to change.
You have to stay plastic. Plastic just means malleable, pliable.
Oh.
Being able to change. I notice it because, like, I'm a couple years away from 40 now, and I start thinking about, I start to watch even now people my own age. I start to watch them settle in the way they think.
Yep. Yes.
And settle in a standard.
Yeah.
This is good enough. This is just how it's done. Well, I could do this. Here's this new tool, but I don't need to learn that.
But you do.
Right? But there's that funny balance of, in some cases, they're right. Their foundation's strong. They know what they're doing. They're confident in their craft. In other places, they are taking that first step on the road to becoming irrelevant.
Right.
Because they're just going to freeze in where they were.
Right.
So I feel like how about my last job was.
Hit him up on LinkedIn.
Which shall remain nameless. Yeah. No, but I get that. Like,
no,
but I get that too. Like, there was a moment when we were in Atlanta, and it dawned on me. It was like year 5 when we were in Atlanta that it was the first time that I was hitting the mark where I hadn't moved. Because like my life before then had been every like 3 or 4 years or so I would move and I would start over again, and I decided to stay. One, because like the film was happening and whatever, but I was like, oh, so what is it like to stay in a place and not keep constantly reinventing yourself? How do I reinvent myself while still staying in the same place? You know what I mean? And I think it's really fascinating to me. It's why I'm so fascinated with television work. Like I think the greatest challenge of my lifetime would be to play a character for many years and seasons while they're evolving and I myself as an actor am evolving. And I think it's the same thing as being a producer and an artist is how do you keep evolving and changing and learning while still staying in the same place. You know what I mean? And what's great about film is that, like, yes, you do get to travel, but you have to have a home base. So what does it mean when your home base is the same? I don't know.
Okay, so let's say that we're between projects right now. Just quick hits before we go to break. What are you doing now? What are you doing now that answers the question of how do you maintain? What are you doing between projects? Since I started this, I'll go first. Between now and our next like feature film booking gig for Springer, I'm trying to sharpen up all of our tools, and I'm trying to really master what we're doing, and trying to learn how to message better. And part of that is manifesting in this show. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing.
Like Jeff, I'm sharpening our tools for Springer. So in the meantime, I am expanding our casting database. Since we've cast the last 2 big films that have come to Columbus, and I'm between 800 and 1,200 local and regional actors in our database, all varying degrees. And while that is very time consuming, I know that it's all the stitch work you do so that, boom, we can just keep rolling. And then personally, I'm writing a television series.
That's awesome. John, what are you up to?
What I'm doing is what I like to call studying, which is just watching a bunch of movies right now.
Nice.
Like I'm watching a bunch of just like Oscar-esque contender films. I want to get into writing. Well, it's not that I want to get into writing. I do want to get into writing. So what I do in between projects is like I study like other films and stuff. Like I like dialogue wise and just like how to do a story, everything from like story down to like editing. So like that's mainly what I do, because like if I'm not working on anything, like I'm just always watching some kind of content.
Yeah,
so,
but you're so versed in that stuff. Like,
yeah,
you're like this Wikipedia for like movies. Like, oh, there's this and this guy did this and this cut. You know.
Yeah.
I think those are all really, really great things. If you're looking to submit to our growing casting database, we'll put a link in as soon as we can. And in the meantime, let's tell you a little bit about Springer Film. So here's the thing. John, will you kick us off with like a welcome back and then lead us into what we're doing?
What's up, guys? Welcome back. Fellas, hold on. No.
Don't be heteronormative.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Talkies. We are about to discuss, guys, like, when do you say no?
Yeah. Oh, that's funny, because you said no and I said yeah. Whoops.
What do you mean? Do you mean like when do you say like no? I've had enough pizza for the day because
you can never have enough pizza.
When do you guys say no to like whenever you're getting overwhelmed by a client with like a lot of requests or like different like set like issues and stuff like?
Okay,
yeah.
Casting,
this is something I'm terrible at with client work. A lot of times I'll take on a little more client work than I can handle, and I've gotten better about that as I've gotten older because I realize I'm not indestructible. Mostly it's like I look at the calendar and it's like, okay, you know, how much can you actually fit in here and be proud of when it's done, right? I can finish things, but more and more I learn if I'm not proud of it, it wasn't worth doing. And completing more of those projects and understanding that, like, to do something really well takes a lot of time and effort. On the flip side, actor-wise, whenever I look a certain way, you know, I got a certain amount of weight on me, and I tend to play like lower status people, or I like to say I don't tend to play people who have a job, right? I look like stoner types, the unemployed types, all that kind of stuff. But I also have a little bit of weight on me, and I would get casting notices, or my agent would send me stuff, very well intentioned, right? Like, here's a job you want to work, you know, here you go. And there came a point where I would start turning down things where the role name was like big guy, fat guy, large guy. If that was the entire name of the character, you know, it'd be like fat guy, and the description is like the big guy at a party, right? I turned those down, and the first time I did that, felt really good. I was really scared, but I was like, oh, okay. And the reason I turned them down is I felt like if that is as much as you've thought through the character, when I get on set, I'm in for a bad day. And that has proven true. Like, anytime that before I started turning those down, when I would take those, I realized that if that was as much as I thought the character through, when you get there, you might as well be like wearing a mascot suit or something, because you're not a person anymore. You are that.
I would say you should
I
even
just didn't want those days anymore.
You should even tell the story of the times you have been on set where you're playing, you know, like the not the homeless guy, but you know, the scruffy guy, especially when you do things for sports commercials, and the challenge that you always face of how they want to dress you or lack thereof. And I think
okay, sure. I for the same thing, just for me, like, I never take off my shirt, and they always ask. You know what I mean? They always ask.
Take off your shirt.
They do, yeah. They're like, you can run around and you can, like, take off your shirt, and, like, I'm like, you know, I looked at the director one day for one of those, and I said, here's the thing, man. Like, I can do that, you know, and if I did that, it's a few seconds of a gag for you in your shot. And I get to live with it for the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, because I've seen, like, every like commercial, whatever I've done, like, there are stills of these things all over the internet. There are clips of these things. Like, Sarah was made into a GIF once for a company. You know, that kind of stuff. They'll try and talk you into, like, just this one time, but it lives forever.
It never is. But I think something that you have said too is that you will never allow your appearance or your weight to be the butt of the joke. And I think that's no, but I think that's really empowering. Because I get that. Like, I mean, for acting wise, you know, now that I'm older, I'm getting much more interesting roles. But there was a time when I was getting, you know, dumb blonde, or the ditzy cheerleader, or the beauty queen who's really evil, the mean girl, you know. And it's really disheartening to get those roles because it's so typical, and it's just one-dimensional. And as an actor, it's like I never want to play just a one or two-dimensional character. I don't believe anyone's, you know, when someone's playing a villain, you don't want to play a caricature of a villain, right? It's a fully realized person who has motivations and is trying to get something, and they just are coming across this way, or something has made them to act a certain way, but they're not going out being like, oh, I'm going to be the bad guy. You know what I mean? And it can be really disheartening because it's like, you know, we all want to have roles that are meaningful. And so how do you say no as an actor when you want to work and you want that gig? Right. How do you say no, I don't want to play a dumb woman anymore. I'm over that trope in general, like, as a human being. Like, I'm really tired of those negative stereotypes that are still being you know, written about. I'm exhausted with it.
I think it's I think it's just understanding your own boundaries, and I think that applies. That's a first principle that applies across. It's not just, it doesn't apply to acting; it applies to everything. One, knowing what your boundaries are, defining them for yourself, but also, like, not apologizing for whatever those are or justifying it. To get to kind of what example you brought up a second ago. Okay, there's maybe a really fine distinction between a character description I'll get that'll be fat guy and a character description that I get that's like a stoner dude. Very similar, but one is about appearance and another is about life choices. And so one is a little more of a character.
Oh yeah.
The other, the other one is just like a description of what I see, and that's like a real baby level creativity. But stoner dude, while still fairly early, is at least like, okay, I've kind of thought about this person. And you know what? It's a really silly line to draw if you just look at it objectively. Like, what's really the difference? Don't you want to work? But I don't have to justify that to anybody.
No, and like it goes even deeper because like I get character descriptions of a blonde, innocent girl. There will be nudity. You'll be topless, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And there's been no thought. It's just I become a physical object that doesn't push the story forward. You just want some titties in your film. Right? And there are times...
Or anything
and there are times when nudity, because I have no shame about my body, and like, I think there's times when you see someone like that where it helps progress the story forward. But if it's just gratuitous, then it's like, no, I'm not here so you can get off and make some extra coinage. I have to live with that forever. You know what I mean? And it's like, because on my acting thing, I have, I'll I don't mind being in lingerie or nudity, but it depends on the context, right? Like, I'm not just going to be an object. Like, there was one time when I drove to South Carolina to meet with this producer and director who wanted to cast me, and there was going to be like an intimate scene and then a scene where I would have been topless, and I was like, look, you got to be SAG. You got to go union if you want me to be the lead. I want to be protected. I want to have certain rights. I want a close set. I want these things. And he was just really slimy. And you could tell that, like, he was just trying to lure women in and, like, give them false hope that they were going to be this lead role so he could see them naked. And I was like, I'm sorry, no. It's like, I just drove 8 hours, and if this is what it is, bye.
It's like the whole photographer thing. Like, photographers are just like,
come do my boudoir
section.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Well, John, 2 out of 3 of the panel have been constantly asked to be topless in films. How about you?
In my commercials, I haven't been asked to be topless while recording it. So
okay. All right. But you offer if it'll make them more comfortable.
Right.
Yeah. We're shooting a car commercial.
A boudoir car commercial.
A boudoir, yes. Valentine's Day.
Come on down to Boudoir Automotive.
Yeah, no, for me, when it comes to like certain clients, and this is something that like I've even through this year, actually, I've slowly but surely learning to say no, we're not doing that. And then as much as I appreciate client collaboration and stuff, there's just certain things where it's just kind of like, okay, so as the professional, like I have to tell you that like what you're asking for, you're screwing up the commercial like narratively, or like you're just there's no way I can add that, or because a lot of people think that, like, oh, just switch this scene out for that, and it's just like, oh,
that's not how that works.
There's music that this stuff is beaten to, like it, like you can't just do that kind of deal. And I used to run into a lot of situations where be in the middle of shooting, and like me and the client and I, we would have like a meeting beforehand, and we talk about like what we're gonna do, and then like whenever we get like on the set, or not on the set, but like whenever we get there and like we're shooting, I used to get a lot of situations where like whoever the owner is or whatever, like their granddaughter like walks in or something, and they'll go, oh well, hey, can we put her in the video, like, and just anywhere, just kind of put her like saying hey or waving at the camera. It's like, no, that's not not what we're doing. Like that's
not what we're making.
That and
or yes, but it will cost you more.
Yeah, that
because like
and then like I get a lot of situations where people will go, they'll hire me to do like a 30-second commercial or a 1-minute commercial, and then they'll go, hey, is there any way you can record like this other part and like make like a 1 minute, or make like a 2-minute version and then like cut it to like a 1-minute version. That way we can just like kind of push it out to do blah blah blah. And it's just like that's not what we agreed on.
No,
it's not like how this stuff works, and
it's not professional on their side of it.
Yeah,
no, it's not. Well, and it's taking advantage of the contract that you've agreed upon. And people love to do that to artists. And
then I told myself this year, because I was bad at it at one point. I gotten kind of good at it, but this coming year, like I am official. Like I'm so tired of people like trying to talk business with me while I'm like at a party or at a bar or something. Like, I'm just gonna like
go to an actor party.
I'm so like over that. Unless it has to be something like. I was about to say it has to be something specific, but like no, like I just don't like it when. Because I feel like you're trying to take advantage of me.
Right.
It's like, dude,
it's
I'm
still,
like 5 shots deep. Like, why are we talking about? Like, it's just, I don't know. I hate it whenever that happens. So, I told myself I'm gonna be better at just like stopping people and being like, yo, like I don't like to talk this like while
You gotta draw those boundaries.
If you want to like make a lunch date where we talk business, that's one thing. But yeah, in your off time, you just want to.
As a freelancer, you kind of have to help teach people, educate people how to. How you want to be treated by what you do.
I had this joke where I was just like, or anytime if somebody does that, I'm just gonna tell them, yo, for $200 we can walk back in this room and we can have a full on like a session right now.
Well, I think
you really want to talk about
this is my rate.
Like,
well, because like if I would say, and we talked about it a hot second, is that if you have a hard time saying no, get in the habit of saying yes, but it will cost you more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you have like that could be your transition point. Yeah, but it's gonna cost you more.
Yeah. If I'm at a bar and you coming up like, yo, I got like this such and such, and be like, all right, so Venmo me such and such.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can continue this like
right. Or hey, can we turn this 30-second video into another 2-minute video? Yes, but it's going to cost you more.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do that, but
I used to have when I was doing design work with clients. I had a expression, I guess. If a client was being super, super difficult, sometimes my punishment to them would be to give them exactly what they asked for. It's like, okay, I'm 6 revisions into a 2 revision agreement. Here's what you asked for.
I support it.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh, and then you go, yeah.
No, I just made like this last logo I just made. We had like a back and forth because they didn't understand like design rules and stuff. Like when you're making a logo, like you don't use a photo as a logo.
Right.
Like
that's not the same. That's not what it is.
Yeah, you don't use that. Like it has to be vector. And so like they were very adamant about using like a photo, and it's like you can't do that. Like you really can't do that.
And also you don't own that photo, so
and it's like if you want to do that, then by all means I will do it for you, but I have to I'm gonna let you know like this is how it's gonna look.
It literally doesn't scale.
Yeah.
Will not.
Yeah.
But my grandbaby's so pretty. Can't you just make her face the logo? And put R.I.P. I don't know what happened to her.
I just call another designer. Yo, can you just
can you do this? I'm done. Yeah.
That's when you call the intern. Okay. Well, we blew through 2 topics today. I think there's a lot more, but we're not going to be able to get to them.
I think a good way of we can save those for
the
new year. What is a goal that everyone has? Not a resolution, but what's the goal that everyone has creatively for the coming year? John. Jeff.
Sure.
I was just gonna say I like to learn writing, like and finish a project, like writing wise and stuff. Like I like to say that I call myself like I'm not the best writer, but like I just like to just get like something done, like writing wise and stuff. But yeah.
I want to do when I get to December of 2020 and I look back, I want to have done fewer projects with bigger impact better. So that might mean charging more for things, but just being really protective of our time, because that's all we get. And just at the end of the year, look back and go, oh, yeah, that wasn't a mistake. I'm really proud of that. I'm really glad I did that. And I really went all the way with whatever that was.
Similar, quality versus quantity to me, I think is going to be sort of what I'm focusing on. And even though I'm terrified to do it, I'm hoping by the end of March that I have written at least the first 3 episodes of my series, like finished, finalize them, because I want by January 2021 to be in production mode. It is a goal for myself.
Excellent. Well, that about wraps it up for today, friends and neighbors, we'll put links to everything that we talked about in the descriptions. Blah, blah, blah. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. What do they say?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it would mean a lot to us if, you left comments. Because, again, we're artists, and we would love to hear your feedback, how we can make it better. Or if you have questions that you want to hear Jeff, John, and myself answer, we would love to hear it. Or if you have a project coming up that you want to plug and we can have you on the show, we would love to do that. Oh, did my thing stop recording?
No, I was looking at the camera. I was like, I'm not gonna. I'm just kidding.
So feedback to us. Let us know how can we make the show better, how can we make the show worse.
And John won't answer anything.
John won't answer anything. All right, we'll see you next time.
I just realized I did anime fingers.